Thank you very much. Wow. That's a big crowd. That's a big crowd. Listen to that. They want change. They want change. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We've had a tremendous relationship with New Hampshire. It's just been incredible. And, you know, you want change. That's what this is about. We got to get this government straightened out. There's never been anything like this. But I just want to say hello to everybody. It's a very special group. We've had a special relationship with your state. And I'm pleased to report that I've just come from the New Hampshire Secretary of State's office, where I officially filed for the first in the nation primary. First in the nation. Great honor. And you know who kept you first in the nation, right? There were some evil forces out there, a lot of evil forces around lately, and they didn't want you to stay there. And I said, there's no way we're moving. We don't have the courage to make that move. I don't have the courage. I'd never do that. I said I would not do it, and I didn't do it. You're first in the nation. Congratulations. Our victory here in 2016 rocketed us to the Republican nomination, and New Hampshire will always have a very special place in our heart. And I have to say, we also did very, very well in 2020, and we did much better in the general election than we did in 2016. We got close to 12 million more votes, 12 million more votes. You know what happened there, right? They say, how did you do in 2020? I did a lot better than we did in 2016. We're not going to let that happen. We got to be very vigilant. Less than 4 months from now, we're going to win the New Hampshire primary, and third straight time. And we are going to defeat crooked Joe Biden. He's a crooked guy. Next November. And very simply, we're going to make America great again. Not great right now. It's not great. We're laughed at all over the world. All over the world, we're laughed at. I want to thank my New Hampshire senior advisor. He's been with me right from the beginning. He's been an incredible guy. Steve Stepanek. Where's Steve? Steve, wherever you may be, there he is. Thank you, Steve. Great job. He's always working. Our New Hampshire co-chairs, Bruce Breton and Lou Gargiulo. Lou, thank you. Bruce, thank you very much. Great guys, great people. Hillsborough County Attorney, John Coughlin. Thank you, John. A man that's been with me really from the beginning. He's the first person with me. He used to tell me, that's right, Corey. He used to tell me, sir, you're going to win by so much. I put him on about 6 months early. How we doing, Corey? Sir, you're leading in every poll. Even if there was no poll, he'd say that. Because he wanted me to run. I said, well, let's take a look at it, Corey. Let's just take a look. Sir, you do it every day. He'd come in. Sir, you're winning. You're killing everybody. How do you know, Corey? Oh, it tells you everyone. I just know, sir. And he was there right from the beginning, and we had an incredible relationship right up until this day, and it'll be going on for a long time. He's a very special guy, and he loves this state. He loves New Hampshire. He lives here. He loves this state, and I'd like to introduce Corey Lewandowski. Where is Corey? Corey, get over here, Corey. Corey, come up here, Corey. Come here, Corey. I got to get him up. Come here, Corey. These people love Corey. This is his place. Come here, Corey. Thank you, sir. Say something, Corey.
How great is Trump? Guys, we won it twice. We're going to win it one more time to fix this country. Donald Trump for New Hampshire. Donald Trump for America. Thank you, guys.
He didn't know that was going to happen. That was a very good job. And another one with tremendous spirit. I watched her on television 2 days ago, defending me and fighting for me. Caroline Levitt. Caroline, where are you, Caroline? Hi, sweetheart. Hey. Boy, you're doing a job. She's doing a job. Oh, I don't want to be against her. I don't want to be against her. That'll never happen. Thank you, Caroline. Honorary chair of our New Hampshire Veterans for Trump Coalition. You know this man very well, Al Baldessaro. Al, thank you, Al. He loves our vets, and I love our vets, and he makes sure that we take care of them. And we did, like nobody's ever taken care. You know, the VA, the Veterans Association, and hospitals, and all of them put together, they have so many different groups. But we got the highest rating that we've ever had. We had a 92% rating for approval, job approval, or taking care of our great vets. Al was a big help, but everyone, the VA, everyone said there's never been anything close. And you look at second place, it was like 51%. Nobody's ever done that job, and it's an honor. You have a lot of vets up here. It's an honor to have done it. It's an honor to have done it. We're going to be building a big VA hospital up here, too, which you don't have. You know, I think you're the only state that doesn't have one. And we had that all set to go, but then we had a little election that went astray. So we have to be careful. You got to get out there and you got to watch those voters. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes. You got to watch election night. You know, it used to be election day, election night. Now it's election month. Now it's election period. Some of these things go on for 53 days. It's terrible. We want to bring it back. Same day voting, paper ballots, right? Voter ID, voter ID. Let me see, here it is, voter ID. But today I'm very pleased to receive the endorsement of a very special person, Belknap County Sheriff Bill Wright. Thank you, Bill. Where's Bill? Where is Bill? Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much, Bill. That's a big endorsement. We have the law enforcement endorsements. They're all over. They're all over. We love law enforcement. They're greatly respected. They don't know that, but they are greatly respected by the people, by the real people. Greatly respected. Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate it. 4 days ago, crooked Joe Biden gave one of the most dangerous and deluded speeches ever delivered from the Oval Office. It was disaster. Not only presentation, which wasn't too good, it's the words that were really bad. Less than 1 week after, innocent men, women, children, and babies were kidnapped, raped, tortured, slaughtered in the worst terror attack in Israeli history. It was the worst in their history, actually. Babies, I guess they said 42 babies with their heads chopped off. Think of that one. They don't even want to talk about it. Crooked Joe went before the American people and said that if you want to support Israel, then you have to give a blank check for the proxy war also in Ukraine, having to do with Russia and Ukraine, which is another one. By the way, it would have never happened if we were president. If we didn't have that election, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have inflation. You wouldn't have had the attack on Israel. You wouldn't have had a lot of the horrible things. The world is exploding. If you take a look, I mean, the whole world is exploding. You know, I was very honored as a man. Viktor Orban, did anyone ever hear of him? He's probably like one of the strongest leaders anywhere in the world. And he's the leader of, right? He's the leader of Turkey. Fronts on both Russia. Yeah, you could sit down. We'll be here for a little while. We got plenty of time. What the hell? I'm very honored that you're all standing, but sit down. They'll be standing in a couple of minutes as soon as we say some of the things they like, because they're waiting. They're waiting for that. But Viktor Orban, and he's the head of Hungary, and he runs it tough. Let me tell you, he runs it properly. He runs it strong with crime and everything else. He runs it strong, and he doesn't let terrorists into his country. They said, what do you recommend for Joe Biden if you could tell him anything? I tell him to resign and let Trump become president, because nobody ran China, Russia, North Korea. Nobody ever did a job like Trump did a job. I tell him to get out, let Trump run things like he was doing for 4 years. Little truth to that, maybe a lot of truth to that. Biden said that if you want to stop terrorists, then you have to give him billions of dollars to support illegal aliens invading the United States. You know, many of the people coming in, you notice there are so many young men, young, strong men, and they're coming in from areas that are right now in war, a lot of in different areas. We have a lot of wars going on all over us. We had no wars. We beat ISIS, 100% of ISIS. You know what we did. But we have a lot of different spaces. You could very much end up in World War III because we have an incompetent president. You know, the United States has such a tremendous influence on what's going on in the world, and a lot of people didn't realize it until lately. You have to be respected as a country, maybe feared, but really respected. You have to be, at a minimum, respected. Joe Biden's speech was a grotesque betrayal of Israel and a confused mess of neocon warmongering. An American last lunacy. American last. They want America last, ladies and gentlemen. Pushing conflict abroad and distracting from as many disasters at home. I mean, look at home. Look at what's going on. And you haven't even seen them. They've allowed, I believe, 15 million people into the country from all of these different places like jails, mental institutions. And wait till you see what's going to happen with all those people. They're not coming in just because they like our weather. They like our weather. They're coming in for a lot of bad reasons. Crooked Joe can't even walk up the children's stairs in Air Force One, you know? Now, doesn't that look terrible? You see a man come out, you want to see a man walk out, or a woman, walk off Air Force One, nice and high, wave to everybody. This guy goes through the little stairs. We call them the children's stairs. And now he's made it a common practice because he can't quite make it up or down. I think he has a bigger time making it up. Usually that's it's supposed to be easier. I don't know. Let's not even think about it. Or find his way off a stage. He can't find his way off a stage. You ever see the makes a speech, if you call it that? Okay, thank you. And they're screaming at him. They're saying, no, you got there, you got... I mean, he can make a bad speech, but you got to be able to see, you know, you came in here, I can even go out there, I see there's an exit there, exit here, you got exits all over. It's unbelievable. And this guy's in charge of the most dangerous time in our history. He's in charge of it. And the weaponry is so massive and so powerful that this won't be World War II or World War I with army tanks running around shooting at each other. World War III will be an obliteration. It'll be something like nobody's ever seen before. And we have a man that's not capable. He's not capable. They're really good at cheating on elections, but that's not him. That's a whole group of radical left lunatics. To every American who's terrified that Crooked Joe's weakness will cause catastrophic global conflict, excuse me, it already is. I make this promise to you as president. I will restore peace through strength, and we will stop World War III. We will not have World War III. And I know all the players. I know them all. I know them all. Because it was Joe Biden, with his weakness and what he did with Iran and others, that caused the attack on Israel. That's very simple. They would have never attacked. They would have never attacked Israel. Never. Russia would have never attacked Ukraine. You wouldn't have inflation. You wouldn't have any inflation right now. It was energy that went up like skyrocketed. He stopped it. Just no more. Let's have everything. Thank you. He sounds like a good candidate. Who said that? Who said that? Stand up. Let me see. He's a real man. He's a real man. Unlike Joe Biden, I will stand with our friend and ally, the State of Israel, 100%. We'll stand with him 100%. And unlike Crooked Joe, I will fully support Israel's mission of ensuring that the terrorist group Hamas is defeated, dismantled, and permanently destroyed. They have to destroy them. And they have to be careful in their type of attack. Going in is a lot of risks to that with the mines that are put all over the place in the tunnels probably. You know, bad things can happen. There's other ways of doing it also, but they know what they're doing and they have to do it right. But they have to be tough and they have to win. They have no choice. They have to win. Even as Biden was speaking, Iranian proxies were attacking U.S. military assets in the region. As he's speaking, they're actually shooting into our different military bases, forts. They're shooting in missiles, and we're saying, like, oh, it's okay, just another day. It's not another day. You remember when I did something to Iran and they shot missiles? Well, those are typically very accurate missiles, but did you notice every single one of them missed, right? I wonder why they missed. I wonder why they missed. They went at a certain base that we had, a lot of people in that base, but they all landed a little outside the base. I wonder why. Someday you're going to think about that. Then you're going to think about, did we know they weren't going to hit the base too? But they didn't hit us. They needed some kind of reply, I guess, but they didn't hit us. Crooked Joe is not feared, he's not respected, and he's regarded by our enemies as a joke. They don't even believe it. When I'm president, America will be respected again like never before, just like never before. And our enemies will know that if they harm a single American, we will hit them faster and harder than they've ever been hit before. In addition, upon my inauguration, and it's our inauguration, I call it, our. It's not mine, it's our. We have to bring our country back. It's not an easy thing to do. Would you believe what's happened to the USA in the last 3 years? But I will immediately reinstate all sanctions on the murderous Iranian regime. You have to do that till we have a deal. If you will not enforce sanctions against Iran, then you do not stand with Israel. It's that simple. It's all about Iran. It's not about these others. It's all about Iran. They know everything that's going on. They probably laid out the game plan. And Joe Biden won't do it. I wonder how much money he's receiving from Iran, do you think? Gets a lot from China, that we know. But I will do it. When I came into office, Iran had $70 billion in foreign exchange reserves. It was loaded up with money. That's from Obama. Its piggy bank was full, and it was also full of terrorists. By the time I left, they had nothing. They were broke. They were broke. The Iranian regime could barely afford to turn out the lights, and we had a lot of interesting discussions. We would have had a deal with Iran, one that was good for everybody, one that was good for them. They might have not have known it at the time, but it would have been good for them. But that not give them access, we cannot give them access to nuclear weapons. We would have had a deal within 1 week after the election. I believe that. I believe that. They were ready to make a deal because they were so, they were poor. They were actually poor. China, I said, if you buy, you're not going to deal with the United States, so we're going to tariff you at a level of about 100% on everything you do sell in. I said that to India, too. I said it to other nations, and they weren't buying oil from Iran at all. They weren't buying any oil, and Iran was not doing well. And the $70 billion that they had was actually, I think, closer to $100 billion. It disappeared very rapidly. And if you notice, all of the problems, all of the big problems, they all stopped. And I never talked about it during my 4 years, but look what happened. We didn't have any attacks in the United States for 4 years. I never wanted to say it during, because I can't say it. I wanted to for 2 years. I wanted to say, look how good things are. We had the ban, we had the whole thing banned. They said, oh, that's such a terrible thing, a ban from horrendous, dangerous nations. We had a ban. I think that's okay. But we didn't have an attack for 4 years. About 2 days after I left, I said, how good did we do? We did great. We did great because we were respected and probably feared. But the election was rigged and it was stolen. And sadly, Crooked Joe surrendered my tough sanctions immediately to Iran. And now, once again, Iran probably has close to $100 billion to finance terror. And Israel's paying a big price. They're paying a very big price. Iran is a very rich country right now. When I left, they were broke. They were broke. And they would have made a deal very quickly, but now they're very rich, and I think it's very hard to make a deal. The minute I'm back in the White House, not only will I impose the most crippling sanctions in history, we will also unleash the most powerful economic weapon. We will drill, baby, drill. Drill, baby, drill. Most powerful weapon. Can you believe what we're doing with the electric cars? All electric. Nobody wants them. Oh, we want all electric. Darling, I'd love to drive to New Jersey, but the car won't go that far. I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop 7 times, darling. Remember the old days when we had those old-fashioned cars that would just drive you to New Jersey and back on a tank of gas? It's nothing like the modern times when we have to stop 7 times to get a charge. Under the Trump administration, we had energy independence, and soon we would have been energy dominant. We were going to be selling our energy to Europe instead of Russia, selling it. And we would have been taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We would have been reducing our debt. We would have gotten our debt, which is tremendous now, tremendous. I was doing that, and then we got hit with COVID, and we had to do other things. We got hit with COVID at the end. We had to do other things. Nobody has ever had an economy, and we did it twice. We did it twice, and actually the second time was really harder because of COVID. We did a great job with that. Never got the credit from the fake news, but we did a great job. We handed him something that was very good. And I got the price of oil below $40 a barrel at some points. Think of it. Gutting Iran's ability to finance war and terror. And likewise, Russia. Russia wouldn't have been able to prosecute the war against Ukraine at $40, but at $100 and $115, and now it looks like we're going up to records. With Biden, the price of oil is nearing $100 a barrel. It's going to be much higher than that soon. And they have all the money they want. So these people that like to fight wars that have oil are making a fortune. Nobody's ever made a fortune fighting a war, but they're making a fortune, far more than anybody has ever made before as a country. And they pay the radical Islamic thugs as much money as they want because they have so much money. Crooked Joe surrendered our energy independence, and he made Iran rich again, really rich, and he made America very poor. We're a very poor nation. We owe $35 trillion. We're very poor. And he used the reserves, our strategic reserves. He took it out so that he could have lower gasoline prices for cars. It wasn't meant for, politics. It was meant for wars. And we're now at the lowest level in our strategic reserves in history. In history, nobody's ever remembered. We're down at the bottom. We've never been at a level like that. I poured in a lot. In fact, if it wasn't for Congress, we would have had... I had a deal to buy it for $25 a barrel and even lower than that. But we bought a lot, and we got it at great prices. And it wasn't for the Democrats, we would have had that whole thing filled up at about $25 a barrel. But they thought, oh, you shouldn't do that. We need that for war. We need that for security, not for cars going back and forth so that you vote for somebody because the oil price is 10 cents less. That's not the reason. He attacked American energy while he unleashed Iranian energy. Look what he did with Venezuela. Remember? Venezuela, take a look at that. So am I right? Am I right? Venezuela, we would have had something done with Venezuela. You could have gone back there. Now you can't. He's right. Thank you very much. And I didn't put him out there, by the way. He's not a campaign finance person. But you're right. We're pouring money into Venezuela on getting tar. They have very heavy tar. It's really tar that you have to burn. And you know where it gets burned? In Houston. It's the only plant, it's the only refinery in the world that can do it because it's very heavy, very dirty. And we're doing it, and we're taking it out of Venezuela instead of under our feet. We have liquid gold under our feet. We have more than any other nation, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than anybody. And it's beautiful. Light sweet. Did you ever hear of light sweet? You know what that is? Light sweet. I call it liquid gold, and we have more than anybody. He funded Hamas and Hezbollah. Hezbollah is now starting, you see, in the north. How about the security person, top security person for Biden said, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack us from the north because that's where we're most vulnerable. Can you believe it? The following morning, we got attacked from the north. No, can you believe the guy he's a national security advisor? I hope that Hezbollah doesn't attack Israel from the north because that's where we're the most vulnerable. The following morning, they got attacked. But this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with stupid people. Dealing with stupid people. He funded Hamas, Hezbollah abroad, while he launched a war on patriotic citizens at home. We're at war. Goes after all of us. I mean, he's attacking his political opponent. Nobody ever got indicted as a political opponent. You know, when you're finished, President, but we're not finished. By the way, if I was, I probably would be right now having a good time in life. But I'm having a good time for a different reason, because we're going to make our country great again. We're going to bring it back. Crazy. Thank you, man. But we'll do the exact opposite. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The spirit, you know, it's amazing. I was saying coming up, every house has a Trump sign on it, everything, and everywhere. In Florida, we left Florida, Iowa, South Carolina, every place we go, the houses, Trump, 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 2024. And I was saying that the spirit right now is greater than it ever was in 2016 or 2020. I mean, 2020 was unbelievable, but they did a lot of bad things, and they used COVID to cheat, and there's a lot of things happened. You know, people couldn't go out. They were afraid to go out. A lot of bad things happened. The ballots all over the place. They had more ballots than they had voters, little things like that, right? But they used it to cheat, and they're not going to get away with it this time. There's more spirit now than I ever saw in 2020 or 2016. You see it here. You see it here. And I think the two reasons are, number one, you saw the job we did. We had the strongest border in history. If he would have, you know, he goes to the beach a lot, right? If he would have gone to the beach and not done anything, he would have the best border. We had the best people. Tom Homan was incredible, right? You know Judd, right? Brandon Judd, he's fantastic. We had the best people anywhere. They're so, you know, Border Patrol, and by the way, ICE, these are great people. These are people that, I know some people in the front row, they're very tough, but they don't want to do the job that ICE does. They go into a pack of MS-13s and they fight. The fists are flowing, and then 2 minutes later, they start taking them out, putting them in paddy wagons, and we got them out of our country. But they fight. Who the hell else is going to do that job? And Brandon Judd does a fantastic job with the Border Patrol. So many great people. And they want to fix it. You know, they could have an easier job if they just stand aside and let them all pour in. That's an easier job. They don't want it. They hate what they see coming in, and they hate that our country's gone to hell. They hate it. They are really amazing. They're great people. I will shut down Iranian energy, and I'll unlock American energy like never before, and we will once again make the Iranian dictatorship very poor. And we're going to make the American people very rich. Look, Iran was broke when I left. I don't want to use a term like that, but Iran was broke. And now they're rich. Over a 3-year period, they have close to $100 billion. They're rich as hell. That's peanuts compared to what they need to keep trying to destroy Israel and other things and other people. We will cut the cost of energy for New Hampshire families in half, and it'll go very quickly. You know, you have the highest energy costs. Is anybody here not from New Hampshire? Anybody here like, well, we have a lot of travelers. They like to hear, and we're not, you know, we do the rallies like once a month, but do those rallies. But, you know, people come from all over the country. It's a lot of people, because this is really a very select group of people from New Hampshire, but a lot of people got in. So, yeah, this guy right over here. Front row Joe, right? Front row Joe, stand up. This guy, he sees a lot of these, and we can't get enough because it's just an optimistic. Look, our country's in trouble, really big trouble, probably like it's never been before, but we're going to make it great again. We're going to make our country great again, but we're going to make it, we really still have that chance, greater than ever before. I really believe that. We're going to make it greater than ever before. And so when people like our friends, the front row Joes that are traveling all over the country, I don't know what the hell they do for a living. They must have a lot of money. You must have been very successful. How many events have you guys gone to? How much? 67th rally. That's pretty good. I'm not losing his vote. I'm not losing his vote. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. No, he's a great American. He's a patriot. He wants to see our country do well. But under my leadership, we kept you so safe from terrorists that you never really had to think about it. The Biden came along, he blew everything up. Remember the horrible situation we had with the border, which was a fraction of what it was now, as an example of what it is now. We had a horrible situation with the border. And I came in and I talked about they're coming through, and I mentioned the word rape, and they said, how dare they mention rape? I mean, the large percentages of the women coming up get raped. Large percentages. What I said was like baby talk compared to the fact. I mean, I was actually being very conservative in what I was saying, but they couldn't stand it. But when you looked at it and you saw it, nobody's ever seen anything like that. And it sounded really bad to me. I did such a good job that in 2020, I couldn't talk about the border because nobody wanted to hear it, because we had no problem with the border. The border was secure. We had no problem. So I couldn't talk about the border. And I used to say, and I would say maybe it was my biggest or second biggest thing other than the economy and the economics of a country. But it was just about my biggest thing. And I said, you know, I got to talk about the border. I got so used to talking about it. They said, sir, nobody cares about the border anymore. You fixed the problem. Nobody cares. I couldn't even say I fixed the problem. People forgot we had a problem. We had a horrible border in 2016. And then we fixed it. I couldn't talk about it in 2020. I couldn't even mention. People start falling asleep. Then, today, you don't mind if I talk about the border because, man, do we have to talk about the border. But Biden canceled my travel ban on terror-plagued nations. He threw open our borders, surrendered to the Taliban. He totally surrendered. That whole thing was so bad in Afghanistan. That was the lowest moment in the history of our country. He gave away tens of billions of dollars to Iran, swamped American communities with pro-jihadist refugees. That's a nice term, pro-jihadist. And proclaimed that the #1 terror threat was not ISIS or Al-Qaeda, but Trump supporters, MAGA supporters. How about that? MAGA. MAGA is the problem. You know what MAGA is? MAGA are patriots. They're patriots that want to see our country be great. They don't want women raped on the streets. They don't want people mugged and beaten up. And they're the people you see at school board meetings begging for sanity in our schools. It's an incredible thing. I watched Biden with that one, remember, with the red background, looked like the devil. He had that horrible, I don't know, whoever his set designer, the same set designer does the same set of him on the beach. Somebody thinks he looks good on the beach. I don't think so. He hobbles over, he grabs the chair. You know, those chairs are meant so a child can pick them up. They weigh like 4, they're incredible. You can pick them up like this. He or she just kind of walking around. And then he sleeps on the beach all day long. And we have potentially World War III going on. It's horrible. It's horrible to watch. It's horrible to see. But he made that speech with that horrible red background. That background might have been worse than the beach. That was a horrible, nasty background. And he talked about MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. And if I would have said, what does MAGA stand for? He has no idea. Make America Great Again, right? He has no idea. If I would say, what does MAGA stand for, Joe? You know what he'd say? And then some guy like Chris Wallace would cut you off if it's a debate. Well, that has nothing to do. I said, no, it does. Remember when I said he got $3.5 million with Chris Wallace? How's he doing lately? Not too good. That debate killed him. But what happened is I said, how come he got $3.5 million cash from the mayor of Moscow's wife? And Chris Wallace said, he's not allowed to answer that question. I said, I think it has a lot to do. And Joe just stood there hoping that Chris Wallace was going to win that debate. But it's terrible because, you know, they're protected by the fake news media. I was proud to say that the fake news media today had the worst approval rating in the history of fake news. 34%. I don't believe it's 30%. I don't believe it's 34%. I don't believe it. No, I don't believe it's 34%. There's a lot of cameras back there. It's amazing what ratings do, isn't it? They don't want to cover me. But if Trump gets twice the ratings of anyone else, we get about 5 times the ratings. If we get much more people watching, it's amazing the abuse they'll take. But listen, they got the low, and it's a bad thing, really, because if we had a fair media and honest, but we have the most dishonest media. I saw MSDNC, right? MSDNC, because it's really a branch of the Democrat National Committee. I saw them the other day. Biden made that horrible speech. The delivery was an F, and the content was probably as bad, almost as bad, but the delivery was so bad. And that was it. And I just want to see what they say. What a great speech that was. Isn't it wonderful to have such a wonderful I said, it's crazy. I remember he made a State of the Union speech. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. Stumbling, mumbling, didn't know where the hell he was. And then CNN, I watched CNN to see. I like to see what they do. They said that was one of the greatest speeches since FDR. You know, FDR was a great speaker, right? He was a great speaker. He sat because of a situation, but he was an elegant, beautiful, elegant and eloquent. That he was a great speaker, and they show him speaking, and rah, rah, America will be great. We were attacked today. You have to understand, now they show this guy who can't put together 2 sentences, and they say, that's one of the finest State of the Union addresses since FDR. And it just drives you wild. Not because of competition, not because of anything. It's just so damn dishonest, let's face it. Let's face it. One of the finest since FDR. At least they didn't say Churchill. Churchill was one of the greats. Yeah, no, well, he is. He's controlled by people that surround his desk. I believe that. In short, I would say. But in short, Joe Biden has been a nightmare for Israel and for Americans. He's been, I mean, as bad as you could be. But Crooked Joe has been a dream president for radical Islamic terrorists. He's been a dream. He's been a dream, an absolute dream. Look what they've built. Look at the power they have. They send thousands and thousands of missiles every night. Where the hell do they get thousands of missiles? Each one is expensive as hell. No, but think of it. They allowed this to happen. Everything Biden has said for many years has been wrong. He's been so bad on foreign policies. His secretaries of states in the various administrations have said he's a disaster. He has terrible instincts, whether regarding the horrible Afghanistan disaster, Ukraine, our completely open southern border. I mean, who would want to have an open border? Or now the attack on Israel. He's been a disaster, but these things never would have happened during the Trump administration. Our once great country is in a giant mess. And you just have to take a look at Europe to see what happens if we don't win. You know, Europe is not exactly doing great, because when we do badly, they do badly. We are, you know, in theory, the leader of the world, and we're leading so badly, and they don't care, and they don't respect us anymore. They respected me. When France wanted to put taxes on our businesses, I said, you can't do it. And you know the story. I said, you can't do it. There's no taxes on our businesses. Why are you doing that? He said, Macron, nice guy. You know, look, he's for France. I'm for us. I'm for us. You know how you spell us, right? You spell us, U.S. I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that before? I just picked that up. A couple of days I'm reading, and it said us. And I said, you know, if you think about it, us equals U.S. Isn't that? Now, if we say something genius, they'll never say it. You know, we get 25, 30, 40, 50, 80,000, 100,000 people to speeches. They've never said Trump's a great speaker. Never said. I've never heard it. I said to my people, do you think they'll ever acknowledge I must be doing okay? Except I'm a very handsome person, so I guess a lot of you want to sit. They want to sit and look at me because I'm so, like a beauty pageant. No, it's amazing. I mean, the other day in Iowa, we had thousands and thousands. You couldn't get them into this big, big room. And Ron DeSanctimonious had like 22 people. And they said, they both spoke. You know, it's like, it's incredible. But in Brussels this month, a radical Islamic terrorist migrant viciously shot and murdered 2 Swedish soccer fans and gravely wounded a 3rd person on the way to a sporting event. He did it for fun. He did it for fun. Didn't know him, did it for fun. In France, a school teacher and father of 3 was savagely butchered in a schoolyard. His throat was slit by an assassin shouting, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. And in London, Berlin, and Amsterdam, mobs of pro-Hamas terrorist sympathizers cheered in the streets for the torture and murder of children. They were cheering for the murder of children. And we have them in this country. I mean, I hate to say it. We have that crazy Talib. We have Talib. Is she crazy? She's crazy. But you have AOC plus 3. I call them AOC plus 3. You have AOC plus 3. And they've changed, and I will say this, they've changed the narrative to a large extent. When you see some of these rallies that are cheering against us and cheering against Israel, think of it, they're cheering like crazy for death to America, for death to Israel. And you wonder what happened to our country over the last 15 years. Very dangerous. This is the sickness and depravity that Joe Biden and his open borders maniacs want to bring to America, and we will not let them do it. We're going to close it up, and we're not going to let them. And if you want to come into the country, you can, but you have to come in legally. You have to come in legally. A vote for Crooked Joe is a vote to turn the United States into a hotbed of jihadists and make our cities into dumping grounds, very much resembling the Gaza Strip. Have you been to the Gaza Strip? A vote for President Trump is a vote to secure the border, and it's a vote to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country. On day 1, I will immediately restore and expand the Trump travel ban. Remember when they said, oh, that's so vicious, but it kept us safe. And it passed in the Supreme Court of the United States. They sued me in every different court. You wouldn't believe it. But on entry from terror-plagued countries and halt all of the refugee settlements to the United States. They want to come in. They want to bring the same people that are shooting rockets at Israel. They want to come into the United States. I don't think a lot of good things are going to happen. And I will implement strong ideological screening of all immigrants. If you hate America, if you want to abolish Israel, if you don't like our religion, which a lot of them don't, if you sympathize with jihadists, then we don't want you in our country, and you are not getting in, right? We don't want you. Get out of here. You're fired. Unbelievably, Ron DeSanctimonious, his campaign, which is dying like a falling bird from the sky. Did you ever see a campaign that was so bad as this one? Well, you need some personality, you know. You can be a politician, but you got to have a little personality to go along with it. He's dying. I also got him elected, and he forgot about it, you know. That guy was so dead. I said, Ron, nobody, George Washington coming back from the dead couldn't save you. He said, sir, you're very popular in Florida. If you go and endorse me, I'll win. I said, I don't know, maybe Lincoln, Washington together could help, but I don't think so anyway. But I gave it a shot because I knew him just a little bit. I didn't even know him well, but he was one of the 150 congressmen that would be on television always fighting against impeachment hoax #1 and impeachment hoax #2 and other various and sundry other, hoaxes and scams and shams, scams and shams. And so he would spend, so I said, all right, look, let's give it a shot. And he went like a rocket ship. And the guy was winning by 40 points or something. He was the Secretary of Agriculture, a nice guy. But I didn't know him, so I didn't feel guilty. I didn't know him. I knew Ron a little bit. So I endorsed Ron, and he went through the roof, and he won. He ended up winning the primary in a landslide. Then he couldn't beat the crackhead that he was running against. And he was getting very bad poll numbers. I said, let's do a couple of rallies because they like me in Florida, and I like the people of Florida. And we did some rallies, and they were massive rallies. And I said, you're going to win. I don't think so, sir. Because the guy that he was running against, you know who I'm talking about, he was him and Stacey Abrams, the biggest female in the party, the biggest male in the party, biggest meaning politically, okay? Biggest male in the party. he was going to be president. They said, he'll be president someday. You know, he's a good-looking guy. But he didn't do too well, and Ron just beat him, but he only beat him because of the rallies I gave. And then 4 years later, they say, will you run against President Trump? He said, I have no comment. He said, no comment? That means he's running, right? When no comment, this guy has no comment. You know what? That means he's a bad seed. That means he's not loyal. There's no loyalty. I did a lot for Florida because of Florida more than him, but I did a lot for Florida. I gave them tremendous money when they have the hurricanes. I always made sure it was there right away and all the different things. I love Florida. I do it for you, too. I do it for everybody. But when you get somebody in office, that wasn't like I helped him. That was like he was dead. He was at 3% or something. He failed. And the only thing he was successful on is getting me to endorse him. When I endorsed him, he went through the roof. But 4 years later, he totally forgot. So he's a bad seed. So I hit him rather hard. And now he is, as I say, like a wounded and very badly hurt birdie falling to the ground. And the campaign rapidly opposed my call for tough ideological screening on all foreign nationals. He was totally against it. 2 days later, Ron DeSantis flip-flopped and plagiarized my entire plan, just like Bird Brain, the flip-flopped. You know, who's Bird Brain? Does anybody know who Bird Brain is? Yes, everybody. That name is sort of stuck. Someday I'll tell you why. She said, I will never vote against President Trump. I will never run against President. Remember? Leaving the White House. He's one of the greatest presidents in our history. I would never run against him. You know, 15 seconds later, I'll be announcing my run for president. Where do these people come from? And she's not doing well, and he's not doing well. Frankly, nobody's doing well except us. We're the only ones doing well. But she flip-flopped. Last week, you saw that disaster after proposing to flood America with refugees from Gaza. Oh, that sounds like a wonderful idea, doesn't it? So DeSantis and Bird Brain are too weak and too timid, and politically, we need people that are going to defend our country. Our country is in trouble. We need people that are going to defend our country. And I'm the only candidate who says it with relish. I say it with pride. We will put all of us together, but I will be the leader on this, put America first. We're going to put America first. Very simple. Biden puts America last. Under Biden, 270,000 illegal aliens were detected charging across our border. It was like an invasion. In September alone, it's a record. Nobody's ever seen it. 270,000 is larger than most cities. Millions have infiltrated since he took office. I believe the real number is 15 million people. You know, you hear 3, 4, 5 sometimes. I believe the number is 15 million. Many are terrorists. Many of them are terrorists. Other countries are emptying out their prisons, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They say, please, sir, please don't use the name insane asylum. That's Silence of the Lambs stuff, you know? Hannibal Lecter was from an insane asylum. They said, sir, that's very tough. Of course, it's true, right? Yes, it's true, but it's a very tough. I said, then I'll say it if it's true. They're emptying out their mental institutions, insane asylums, their prisons, and their jails. And you have many, many thousands of terrorists pouring into our country. And I'll tell you, does anybody want to hear the snake? Because, you know, we have it. And people, they always want to hear the snake. But I love it. I think it's so emblematic of what we're going through. Because we're allowing people in our country that are going to do great harm to us someday. And we're going to get them the hell out. We're going to have the largest deportation effort you've ever seen. But I'll do it because I heard somebody just scream, could we have the snake, sir? Said, have you heard it before? Yes, maybe 10 times. But a lot of, who hasn't heard the snake? Okay, good. You know, it's like 25% of the room. So what it is it represents people coming into our country, the wrong people. Many of the people coming in, I would say a majority, because these countries, I know the presidents, the prime ministers, I know the dictators, I know they're all very street smart people. They're not sending their good people. They're sending others. But they are emptying out their jails, their prisons, their mental institutions, and they're coming into our country. We're like a dumping ground, and nobody does anything about it. And we are going to be suffering for a long time, but we're going to get them the hell out of here. We have no choice, because no country can sustain this. Forgetting about just the crime danger, which is tremendous. You see what they're doing to the cities, what they're doing. They're ravaging the cities. And you know, these cities, some of these liberal guys, they're all liberal Democrats running the cities, and it's incredible. They're putting them in luxury hotels. They're putting them in the finest hotels in the world. And our veterans are sleeping out on the street, dying, okay? So this is very emblematic, and we'll go and just have a little fun with it. What's fun about something so bad? But we got to make the best of where we are, because in November of next year, we have to win that election. We can't play games. And you're going to go to those polls, and you're going to make sure you don't see boxes pouring in and votes pouring in and people with wheelbarrows carrying votes all over the place. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. "Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried, "but if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, "Thank you, ma'am," the snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. "I saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die." "Shut up, silly woman," said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in." Right? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? We know what we're getting. The prisons, the mental institutions. When it happens, you're going to remember the snake. We don't get in, we're not going to have a country. Let me tell you, we're not going to have a country. So we have to get in. We have no choice. Upon my inauguration, it's our inauguration, I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. It's no wonder the far-left lunatics are getting desperate to stop our movement by any means necessary. Do you ever see where they say, "We want to run against Trump"? These are disinformation, misinformation people. Very small difference, but I'll give them both. Disinformation, misinformation. Every poll has me leading Biden by a lot, leading the Republicans by 60 points, but leading Biden by a lot. In fact, the Washington Post had me leading by 10 or 11 points, and they said, "We think this might be an outlier." They couldn't believe it. They spent a fortune on a poll, and it says Trump is leading, which they don't like to hear. I don't even know why. Why? What do we want? Low taxes, great schools, great security, great military, great this. Why wouldn't they want us, okay? Everything's the opposite. We want strong borders. Everything is the opposite, so you almost wonder why. I mean, unless they just want our country to be destroyed. But think of it, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Everybody should be for this. We want great education. Look at interest rates. Your interest rates now, you can't get any money. Anybody trying to buy a house, you're trying to buy a house, don't bother. Because you can't, the banks don't give you money. They don't have money, a lot of them. And the interest rate's over 8%. And I had it at 2.3% for a long time, too. Remember, I had a jawbone, the Federal Reserve. I had a jawbone, that guy. But crooked Joe Biden and the radical left have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent. Nothing like that's ever happened before. This is high-level election interference. They want to damage me so that when you go to the poll, well, I don't know. And it happens a little bit like these maniacs back there. Trump is facing indictment. This is a Biden indictment. This was done by the Biden White House. This is not an indictment. This is a Biden. I challenge the election. I challenge. And we're releasing proof more and more. I want this to go. I want that challenge to go because they don't have a chance of winning. Think of it. Think of it. We challenge the election. Every Democrat challenged the 2016 election. We challenge the election, and they indict you for that. Biden has boxes by the thousands, that he wasn't president, so he wasn't covered by the Presidential Records Act. That's meant for this. I did nothing wrong at all. In fact, my boxes, it was secure. Everything was good. This guy, he sent them to Chinatown, to Penn, to Delaware, to all of them. He had some by the Corvette in his garage, which was leaking with a garage door. You could cut those doors open with a scissor. They're the kind of door, you buy them for like $200 on television, right? That's the door security. And Biden had a son who happened to be in that house. He stayed in that house. But you know where they had they had a lot of them? In a place called Chinatown. A lot of boxes were in Chinatown, and now it turns out that they moved in and out of Chinatown. And, when you see what they do, it's just terrible. But it's, that's a two-way street. That's a dangerous thing they've unleashed, a really dangerous thing. I wonder if my father would be proud. I got indicted 4 times in the last 12 minutes. I heard we were getting 2 more, but I heard the DOJ called, no, don't do it, because we've gone up in the polls every time I got indicted. Because the people understand it. Don't do it! No more. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't indict that son of a bitch. Don't indict him anymore. This is killing us. We're going to indict him right into the White House. Don't do it. Stop it. Stop it. Enough. 4 is enough. The legendary Alphonse Capone. Did anybody ever hear? He would take a tough guy like these 2 guys up here. He'd slap them around. He'd shoot them if he didn't like them. If he gave him a dirty look, right? He'd shoot them right through the head. Alphonse Capone only got indicted once, right? I got indicted 4 times. And he didn't go to the Wharton School of Finance, right? I got indicted 4 times. But this is high-level election interference, and it's happening for a single reason, because I'm the only candidate they cannot run against. Look, the other candidates say, oh, well, we want to run because we can win. Every poll has DeSantis getting killed, Bird Brain getting killed. They're all getting killed. Every one of them is getting killed. And I'm leading by 10, 14, 12, 9, 4, 2, but I'm leading by a lot. So what they say is, we want to run against Trump. We're dying to run against Trump. Well, if they were dying to run, they wouldn't be indicting me 4 times. They wouldn't be working with the local DA and the local AGs. A beauty from this great AG from New York. She's a real beauty, that one. In the new Emerson poll, no, but when you want to run against somebody, you don't indict him. You say, oh, please, we want to run. Everything with them is a lie. It's all disinformation. In the new Emerson poll, we're leading the Republican primary field by 51 points. With Trump at 59, DeSanctimonious and Bird Brain now are tied at 8. So they're tied. And in the general, we're beating Crooked Joe by a tremendous amount, like 12 points. A friend of mine who's not that political said, I can't understand it. How come you're only leading by 12 against that guy? But they have unions, although I think the unions are going to be voting for me, frankly, because I think the unions have had it. But they have, traditionally, they've had the union vote. They have civil service. They have a big welfare vote. They have they start off with a very high base, very, very high base. That's good. Thank you very much, sir. That's very nice. He's a brave person. That's good. Thank you very much. Thank you. But we're trouncing everybody, and the radical left Democrats, they rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to let them rig the presidential election of 2024. We're not going to allow it. Look what happened to our country. And Washington, D.C., our capital, Washington, D.C., has become a dirty, crime-ridden death trap that must be taken over and properly run with kid gloves and beautiful, and stack it with money and clean it and fix it. I see marble that's got graffiti all over it, and what a horrible, dirty roads. I see roads that haven't been cleaned in 6 months. You'd see containers of McDonald's where the container is 6 months old. Cars have been riding on it, water's been raining on it, and stuff has been laying on the ground. It's 2 inches thick. It's disgusting what's happened. It will be a part of my election. You know, it has been a part of my election platform. I used to run when I was like, would go out, see somebody, would go to a visit, or would go to the airport or something. And every time I rode through, my eyes are watching the medians. Like, you got to fix that median. That median's been broken now for a month. You got to this, you got to that. Why is there rust all over the place? Why is there paper? They'd have people coming after me, and I'd say, you got to clean that. You got to paint that. You got to take the graffiti off of the Lincoln. I'll tell you what, you look at the Lincoln Memorial where I go up there and they had graffiti on it. I said, I want that thing cleaned immediately. Immediately. They want to rip down the Jefferson Memorial. But I would have very open eyes. You know, being in real estate, I always kept clean properties. I like clean, well-run. You know, tippy-top, we say, tippy-top. We want them to be tippy-top. Well, our capital is the opposite of tippy-top. It's a shit house. Horrible. It's horrible. It's so horrible. You know, our parks are littered and dirty and disgusting, and many, many homeless are living there. We have to take care of our homeless. We have to get them out. This is the capital of, in theory, it should be the capital of the world. It's no longer the capital of the world, but it will be again. It will be again. We want it clean, we want it beautiful, and we want it safe. Last night, 2 people were shot. And that was a good night, okay? Every day, people are being shot, they're being killed, they're being badly hurt. In good neighborhoods, we're going to end that. You know, when they started ripping down monuments or trying to rip down monuments, I found an old statute, and I signed it immediately and had a news conference, and it said, if you touch a monument, if you do anything to destroy or hurt a monument, even if you don't do it, but you're trying to do it, you get 10 years in jail, effective immediately. And as soon as I did that, everything stopped. Everything stopped. I took over a mess. They even wanted to rip down a Lincoln statue. You know, Lincoln freed the slaves. Lincoln was a great man. He was a great president. George Washington, they don't like him either. In California, they have many schools that were named Washington High School. Many of those names have been removed. It's not even believable what's happening. But we will make the Capitol magnificent, more beautiful than it was. We're going to make it more beautiful than it was. I look at the sidewalks. The sidewalks are all cracked and dirty, and yet we spend hundreds of billions of dollars. We spend trillions of dollars giving that money to foreign countries, and we don't even know where it goes. You'll learn where it goes when you see these beautiful 400-foot yachts pulling up to the dock. Someday, how did he make so much money? Let's not talk about it. You'll see what's going to happen. But our sidewalks are broken. Our roads are disgusting. You have asphalt that hasn't been changed in 15 years, and it's in our big, beautiful streets with names on them. Pennsylvania Avenue. I did a hotel there, a great hotel. It was a big success. It was a great thing. I did it, and I sold it at the right time, obviously, because people aren't buying hotels there right now. People aren't visiting there right now. It's too dangerous. We have a capital that if you go there, you get shot. And we're not going to have that anymore. So we're taking over. And with this in mind, there's no way I can get a fair trial. You know, I'm supposed to be getting, because Donald Trump challenged the election. So let's put him in jail for the rest of his life, okay? Even though it was a crooked election. Do you ever know, they only go after the people that challenge the results of the election. They don't go after the people that cheated. Those people are free. Those people have no problem. If you want to challenge the result of an election, they hound you. Look what happened this weekend with 2 good people. They hound them and they scare them, but we don't get scared. We don't get scared. I'll tell you what, I don't mind being Nelson Mandela because I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it for a reason. Doing it for a reason. We got to save our country from these fascists, these lunatics that we're dealing with. They're horrible people, and they're destroying our country. I talk about threats from within and threats from outside. The threats from within, in my opinion, are far more dangerous than the threats of China and Russia. Because if you're smart and you know how to deal, you can hold China and Russia and North Korea. Look at the relationship. North Korea, who's now acting up again, but I had a great relationship. You were not in any danger. If you have a smart person, if you have the right person as president, they are not threats. You can get them to do things. You can get them to spin on tops. But these sick people from inside our country, these fascists and these Marxists and these communists, remember I said, we will never have a nation that's socialistic, right? We will never be a socialistic nation, ever. I said it at the State of the Union, and everybody applauded, but I was wrong. It was one of the only things. Did you ever see where they say Trump was right about everything? I was wrong. We didn't stop at socialism. We went right to communism, Marxism, fascism. We never stopped. So I say that was wrong because we're not socialistic. Right now, when they start playing with your elections and trying to arrest their political opponent, I mean, I can do that too. I can, if I win, which I hope we do because we're not going to have a country, but if I win, I could then say, I don't know, this guy, this Democrat's doing great. I don't like the poll numbers. Attorney General, come down, arrest that guy, will you please? Give him a subpoena. Indict him. That's the end of him. This is the first time in history that somebody's been indicted and his poll numbers have gone up. When you get indicted, it's true. Because the people understand it's bullshit. It's bullshit. They understand it. No, they understand it. But if you're more of a normal politician, let's say you're a congressman, you're a senator, you're anything, you don't have a big voice. We all have a big voice, you know, so I can explain what it is and you can make your own determination. And by the way, even the lawyers say these indictments are, it's ridiculous. But I could say to my attorney general, indict the guy that I'm running against because he's killing me in the polls. And generally speaking, that guy's gone. He's out of politics. I've seen it 100 times where a man gets indicted, he's a congressman or something, and he goes to the mic within 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be leaving to defend my honor, and I will be spending a lot of time with my family. I will be spending great amounts of time. I love my family and my wife so much. I will be spending great amounts, and I will fight for justice. And that's the end of him. You never hear from him again. You don't know what the hell even happened. Nobody ever checks. But with me, we took the opposite approach. We exposed them for being lunatics and being horrible people. But we can do, you know, they've unleashed something, and it's honestly, it's a very bad thing. It's very dangerous what they do. Fannie Willis in Atlanta. People say, what was the crime? The DA, they say there's no crime in New York, which is, by the way, controlled by the DOJ. They took their top guy in the DOJ and put him into the DA's office. How the hell would you like my life? Would you like my life? Well, I have to go home. Darling, I'd like to explain something. First Lady, she sends her regards, by the way. Darling, I had a rough day at the office today, darling. I love you very much. I got indicted. And next week I'll be indicted again, and the following week again, and then again, and again, and again. I have to call up Ivanka. Ivanka, hi, honey, how you doing? Great, Dad, how's it going? Well, I got indicted at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Oh, that's not good. I said, no, it's not. How would you like this, though? Seriously, it's a terrible thing, and I try and take the light side of it, but it's a very bad thing for the country. It's very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And think of it, got indicted, every one of them is just ridiculous. But think of it, thank you, because if I said it twice, I'd get in trouble. But think of it, got indicted for stuff that they've been doing for years. Did you ever hear Maxine Waters and these people talk? The way they talk, we're going to this and we're going to that. I won't even say what she says. Because you know what they'll do? They'll say, I said it. They'll take the Maxine Waters off and they'll just have me say what she said. They'll say, he said that. But that's what they do because they're fake news. But did you ever hear some of these people talking about the viciousness? When you see them in a restaurant, you go in there and you know what you do to them, right? If I ever did that, problems. And then remember when Biden, I'd like to take him to the back of the barn. I dream of that. You know what I do with him? Oh, I dream of it. Boom, boom, boom. I'd hit him right in that fake nose. That fake nose. They'd have plastic lying all over the floor. But I don't want to say that. So when he says it, they say, oh, he said. Remember when he was doing that? I'd like to take him to the back of the barn. You know what you do with him? You just look at him and you go like this. But, so he can say that, and they say, oh, did you hear him? If I said it, they'd say I was violent. I was violent. There's two standards of justice. It's a very bad thing, but it's a very unsafe thing for our country, very bad thing for our country. And the fake Biden-inspired fraud case, as an example, against me, brought by the corrupt Attorney General of New York State, Letitia Peekaboo James. And New York State has become very sadly, look, I love New York, I love it so much, but it's become a crime-infested place. Crime-infested, filthy, dirty. The job they do is horrible. Where people and businesses are fleeing to other states in record numbers. It's her, and I have a highly partisan judge, a real political guy right out of the clubhouses. And he's been overturned many times by the appellate courts. And he defrauded me. They defrauded me because I have a house that's very valuable, and they try and make it like I'm increasing values. And honestly, it's a very conservative number, but they valued a house that's worth 100 times more than the number they used. Let's say 50 to 100. They valued it at $18 million, and people say it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 and maybe even that more. They defrauded me, and he called me a fraud before I even got to court. I said, how the hell can a guy do that? Called me a fraud before I got to court. So my assets are worth much more than listed on the 100% disclaimed financial. You know what a disclaimer is? You have a clause up front. It says, do not believe these statements. They were made by management. They may be high, they may be low, they may be this. But do your own due diligence, do your own research, do everything. Do not believe a word in them. So we have, number one, statements that are the financial statements are less than the actual values by a lot, by a tremendous amount. That's number one. They said it was just the opposite. She campaigned, I will get Donald Trump. She didn't know anything about me. I have the greatest assets, like the hotel. I have it listed for X dollars. I sold it for much more than I have it listed for. All my problems. I built a great company, cash, very little debt, all the stuff. And I have this monster going around in court, and she's got a judge that wouldn't change. He wouldn't give it to the commercial division where it belonged, but it really belonged nowhere because it should have never been brought. This was a case that should have never been brought. There were no victims except me. You know, the banks say, like, what are we doing here? He paid off his loan. He never had a default. He was a great customer. They said, we don't care if he paid it off. We think he may have been overvalued, which is very subjective. But even if it's subjective, I don't even say that, it's much lower than the actual value. The banks were so thrilled. They don't even know what's going on. They said, no, he paid his loan. I never got sent a default notice. You know the way if you're late with a loan, you get a default notice. You have not paid. You have 10 days. I never got a default notice. I paid them off. And many of them I paid off way early. So we go to the appeals court. We won on the statute of limitations because they went back, back to the Stone Ages. And, when he was 12, no, they went back to the Stone Ages. They went way, way back. You have like a 5-year term. You have a 3-year term. Sometimes you have a 6-year term. But the appeals court gave me a total victory. And this radical left judge, he's a Trump-hating judge, hates Trump. He refuses to accept the appeal court's decision. So the case should be dropped immediately. It's amazing. So we have a judge that's out of control, and he's totally afraid of Peekaboo James. He's totally afraid of her. He's intimidated by her. And she convinced him that Mar-a-Lago, which is probably the most valuable home anywhere in the United States, probably by far, is worth $18 million instead of numbers that are 50 to 100 times greater than that. So it's a complete miscarriage of justice and election interference. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to damage your name and your reputation. But I can explain it to people. And when I explain it, people say, wow. But here's a case where they said I went in with statements that were inflated, which, by the way, every developer does, just so you understand that. I'm the only one that probably doesn't. But go in with statements, if you look at developers, you know, and one of the banks said, no, we expect that. We always cut everything in half. But he didn't have to do that with us. They said we were very happy with him. He was a great customer. And I'm being sued for fraud. The only victim is me. And this was election interference. They want to damage your name and reputation so that instead of a room that's packed with thousands of people outside trying to get in, you have 1/3 of the room here. Or you have, like DeSantis, you have 25 people here. And they can't get out fast enough. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists, which is what they are, every time they indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. I really do. I really do. Because I'm being indicted for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Front row Joe, would you like to accept a couple of indictments? He says, no, I don't want to be. No, that's true, but you have to be strong and you have to be very smart. These are bad people. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. I'm never going to let that happen. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. And I just happen to be standing in their way. That's all it is. That's all it is. They never had anything like this. They never had anything like this. They still haven't recovered from 2016. So they cheated like maniacs in 2020, but they still haven't recovered from 2016. They have a thing called Trump derangement syndrome at a level that nobody's ever quite witnessed before. Together, we created the most secure border in U.S. history. We built nearly 500 miles of border wall, actually more than that. And when I said Mexico will pay for the wall, they largely did because they supplied us with 28,000 soldiers free of charge at our border. You know that, right? You remember I said they pay? Well, there's no way they can actually pay for it legally because they can't say, here's a check for a wall that we own. Just no way you can do that. But they paid much more than that because they gave us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. And they did a very good job. But when I first asked them for that, I said, I'd like you to give us 28,000 soldiers. That's the amount we need to protect our border while we're building the border wall, which is mostly built. Actually, we finished the big section and everything that I said I was going to do. And then I was going to add 200 miles more because all of a sudden areas that weren't a problem become a problem. It's like water, right? And we're going to do another 200 miles. We had everything bought. And it was going to be erected over a period of 3 weeks. Could have been 3 weeks, another 200 miles. And they sold that stuff for like 5 cents on the dollar. Most expensive wall you can buy, the hardened steel, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just a shame. That's when I realized they wanted open borders. I said, nobody wants open borders. Nobody that loves our country, unless they're very stupid. And they can't be stupid because you can't cheat on elections that well and be stupid. So they're smart. But they are evil. They really are. They're evil. They've got some... They hate. They must hate our country. I ended the NAFTA disaster, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with the brand new USMCA. That's Mexico, Canada. The best trade deal ever made, although actually the deal I made with China, I think, was probably the best. $50 billion they have to buy every year. But then I don't even usually mention it because when we got COVID, the whole thing... Once COVID came in from China, Wuhan, remember I said it came in from Wuhan. Everyone said, why would he say that? It came in from caves. First they said it came in from Italy, which was not nice. Then they said it came in from France. Then they said the American soldiers brought it in, right? And then they admitted it came in from China, but it came in from Wuhan. It came in from their lab. But I took on communist China like no administration in history, bringing hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our treasury when no other president had gotten them to pay this country 10 cents. They never talked to China about that. I then gave the farmers and New England lobstermen $28 billion. You know, I gave you lobstermen $28 billion. And you know the ridiculous 500 square miles of the ocean? that they wrote off. They said, you can't go fishing there, you can't go for lobsters, you can't do anything on this piece of ocean that was fine. I said, what was the purpose? They had no idea. They couldn't even explain it to me, probably. You know, they said environmental, but it had nothing to do. The lobstermen from Maine and from your state, right? Is that right? Did I do it? And I ended it. And they went out, you know, instead of having to be in a boat for 2.5 days to get to an area where they're allowed to fish and grab the lobsters and all the things that they did, they couldn't afford to do it. It was a disaster. I ended it entirely. And then they came back. You guys know what I mean. Who's from Maine? Anybody from Maine? Am I right? Right? And I opened it up fully so they could fish and they could do what they have to do right, you know, offshore. And everybody was happy. And then he came back within 2 weeks. He signed it off again. He wrote it off. It's a horrible thing what they're doing. I fully rebuilt the U.S. military, created Space Force, defeated ISIS. I defeated ISIS. 3 weeks I defeated ISIS. And I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. Remember, Hillary said, he will start a war. No, my personality kept us out of war. She said, his personality will get us into World War III. No, my personality kept us out of World War III. Kept us out. When I told, as an example, going back, when I told Mexico, you got to pay for it, well, why do we have to pay? Because you're letting all these people pour into our country. You're going to have to pay. Well, we won't do that. Yes, you will, 100%. No, we won't. No, 100% you'll pay for it. And he thought I was like, what, is he crazy? I'm talking with the top person in Mexico, not the president, who I have a great relationship. I didn't actually want to have that conversation. I wanted to have it with somebody else because I really like the president. He's nice. But he had to do this. So I said, no, you'll pay. You'll pay 100% of it. He said, no, we won't. Yes, you will. And here's the story. If you don't pay it, we're going to sign a tariff. I have the papers right in front of me. On Monday morning, this was a Friday, on Monday morning, we're going to tariff you, tax you, 25% on every car that you sell into America, 25% on every product that you sell into the United States, and that's far more money than the cost of 28,000 soldiers. And he said, you wouldn't do that. I said, I'm ready to sign it right now. It'll start on Monday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. Everything that you sell into this country will be taxed or tariffed at 25%. He said, may I excuse myself from the room, sir? This is the guy that said, no way. I said, wait, before you excuse yourself, there's a couple of other things we want. We want stay in Mexico. We don't want anybody coming into our country. We want catch and release, but we're releasing them in Mexico, not into the United States. All these stupid things. I gave him a list. Sir, I'd like to come back to see you in a few minutes. Do you mind if I make a call? So obviously he went call the president. And came back and, sir, it would be our great honor to supply you with 28,000 soldiers. We got 28,000 soldiers. It took me 20 minutes. 20 minutes! Then they say, oh, Mexico didn't pay. Mexico paid a fortune for that wall. When they tell you Trump didn't get the money, remember I used to say Mexico will pay for it. Well, that's what I did. This is something they could do. And their soldiers were tough, too. They weren't as politically correct because our soldiers, they want to arrest them if they raise their voice. You know, they raise their voice. I'm sorry, sir, you're not allowed to come in. He's harassed me, and they want to arrest our soldiers. These people are crazy that we have running our country. But I negotiated peace deal after peace deal, and I brought our troops back home from Syria, from Iraq, from the fight with ISIS, from other countries. I got rid of ISIS because I got rid of the previous rules of engagement. They had rules of engagement. If they'd meet a nest of ISIS, like 25 people that are vicious killers, they'd have to call the White House to get approval to do what they had to do. And so I get in there the first night I'm in there. I get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sir, there's a colonel on from Iraq, and he'd like permission to wipe out a nest of very bad people. I said, does this happen often? Yeah, no, Obama wanted them to call because sometimes they wouldn't give permission, sometimes they would. But I said, let me ask you, Colonel, where did you go to school? Sir, I went to school at West Point. And you studied military and you're really good at it? Yes, sir, I'm good at it. I'm a warrior, sir. And then I speak to other people, too, a captain, a lieutenant. You know, they were calling, and I'd talk to them. I said, where'd you go? I went to West Point, sir. Or I went to Annapolis, sometimes along the shore. They had such incredible weapons. I went to Annapolis, sir. I was first in my class. I said, Wouldn't you be better off making a determination as to what we do with these people? Yes, sir. Anyway, I gave them the right to make their own determination, which is and within a period of 4 weeks, it was over. It was over. We also had somebody that, you've heard that story, but General Kane, Raising Kane. But let me just tell you, we have a great military. They're trying to turn them woke. It's not going to happen. But we have a great military, and it's really worked. But, you know, we had some bad leaders recently. We had leaders that are, I call them television generals. But we have great generals there. We have great admirals. We have great people. We have, you know, I rebuilt the entire military. We rebuilt a lot of the military. And sad that we had to give $85 billion of it, which is actually, believe it or not, a small chunk. But we had to give $85 billion to the Taliban. Do you know that the Taliban now is the second largest seller of military equipment in the world? They're selling the 700,000, because they don't need 700,000. They probably need 10,000 guns and rifles. 70,000 trucks. If anybody owns a beautiful used car lot in New Hampshire, if you have probably 200, it's a lot. That the inventory is too big. You're doing something wrong. 70,000 trucks and cars and vehicles, many of them armor-plated, many of them costing over $1 million each. We left it all behind because we're stupid. We left it all behind. And then we left Bagram because I was getting them out. I'm the one that got it down to 2,500 soldiers. But the one thing I was doing, we were keeping Bagram. It's one of the biggest Air Force bases in the world. Cost us billions and billions of dollars years ago. Billions and billions years ago. It's got runways that are 20,000 feet long, which is the biggest and the strongest. Could land anything on them. And I was going to keep that, not because of Afghanistan. I was keeping that because they're 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear missiles, right? And you know who has that Air Force base now? China. China! Together we saved America once before, but we will save America again, and again, we're going to make it better than it ever was. And here are just some of what we will do when we become the 47th president, of the United States. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Look, that's a war that would have never taken place. Putin would have never done it, It'll be done very quickly. The United States must also build a state-of-the-art missile defense shield. Look, we got to have a missile defense shield. We got all these maniacs in all these countries, not only countries, big countries where you can talk and, you know, they have a lot to lose also, but you have people getting nuclear missiles. I wanted to stop that. We had it stopped with Iran. We have to have a shield. I want to build a shield around our country, and these shields work. Frankly, if Israel didn't have a shield, you wouldn't have Israel today. You wouldn't have. They stop thousands of rockets a week. But we have to build a much more sophisticated shield, and it's going to be made right here in the USA, so it's not all bad. And a lot of it's going to be made in New Hampshire. A lot of it's made in New Hampshire. You're going to have a nice big shield. And for years, American taxpayers have bankrolled space-age missile defense system to protect foreign nations. We do these incredible things, and we give it to foreign nations. We have very little ammunition now. How about Biden a couple of months ago says, we have a problem. We have very little ammunition. Can you imagine? Let's assume that's true. It is true. But who would say that? You don't say that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have communist China and we have Russia that hate us. I want to say right now we have very little ammunition. He actually said we have very little. Even if it's true, number one, we shouldn't have been in that position. But we have given so much ammunition to other countries, in particular Ukraine. We don't have any ammunition. These people, well, it's like the guy I told you about. Well, you'll be making a lot of our ammunition. We had so much ammunition, we were blowing it into warehouses. We were taking warehouses all over the country, storing our ammunition. We had so much ammunition, and now we have very little, just like in the strategic reserves. We have very little gas. Under my leadership, we will once again protect our own people with our own missile defense system capable of blasting China, Russia, Iranian missiles out of the sky. And we will, in addition, have offensive weapons that will be second to none. We'll have the greatest weaponry. We have the best people. You know, Russia stole we call them the super dupers, right? They go super fast. They stole that during the Obama administration. They stole the plans. It was all very highly classified. They stole the plans and they built it. Americans deserve an Iron Dome, and that's what we're going to have. We're going to have an Iron Dome around our country. And we'll save a fortune because a lot of countries that we protect, number one, they can't stand us. Number two, they don't deserve protection. The money we waste is incredible. I will end Joe Biden's inflation disaster, and we will quickly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. Very quickly. It's going to go fast. Get ready. And unlike the sanctimonious who voted to gut Medicare and Social Security and voted 3 times to raise the retirement age to 70, I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. We're not going to be raising ages like you. We have so many other things we can do, like, as an example, utilize what's under our feet, liquid gold. We're going to make so much money with our liquid gold. We were all set, and we were starting to do it. We were energy independent. Within 6 months, we were going to be energy dominant all over the world. And this guy stopped it. On day one, I will repeal Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate. Everybody has to have an electric car. Under a Trump administration, gasoline-powered engines will be allowed, but child sexual mutilation will be banned. Can you imagine having to say that? No, can you imagine having to say it? Can you imagine 15 years ago if you had a politician? Can you believe I'm a politician? I got to say I'm a politician, I guess. But can you imagine you had somebody up here running for office and you said, we're going to ban child sexual mutilation. People would say, is this guy crazy? Of course so. Or we're going to give parental rights back in our schools. Who would think they've taken it away? They're arresting parents. They're arresting parents. I will also sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and any other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And I will keep men out of women's sports. Is that okay? Crazy. You ever see some of the records that are being broken? Records that were good for 18 years, and now they're being obliterated. Yeah, weightlifter. He says, "Do." He wants me. But can you imagine weightlifting records being broken by 150 pounds? They'd put an ounce on each side, 1 ounce. They'd put another ounce on the other side. They'd try. They couldn't do it. A guy comes along. Have you lifted before? No, not really. Bing. It's terrible. The swimming. Look at the swimming records, right? The swimming records are being shattered. And you know, it's very demeaning to women what's taking place here, right? And people are afraid to talk about it. Even like the swimmers on the swimming team I was watching, I'd rather not. They're afraid to talk about it. This is like fascism. This is crazy. They're afraid to talk about it. But we'll get rid of men in women's sports. That's not happening. Just as I did for 4 years, I will fully uphold our Second Amendment. And we will restore free speech in America. Free speech. And along with our borders, probably the most important thing of all, we will secure our elections. Because if you don't have borders and if you don't have fair elections, this country will not survive. No country can. Our goal will be one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. But until then, Republicans, you have to get out in November. We have to do it twice a year. In January, we're going to do that. We're going to win the primary big. But we have to get out in November. We can't let them cheat. The only way they beat us is going to be if they cheat. They can't beat us otherwise. They don't have the votes. We don't want to see those votes get manipulated. We don't want to get the biggest problem. You know, they're all saying about don't vote on Tuesday, vote early. No. The biggest problem is they make fake ballots, okay? That's the biggest problem. And a lot of Republicans are very naive when they don't say that. They say, oh, vote early, we want to build. No. The big problem we have to do, we got to stop fake ballots from being made. And if we don't do that, this country's in damn big trouble. This is what we must do in conclusion to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Israel is under attack. Our economy is cratering. You know it very well up here. Inflation is out of control. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea have formed together as a menacing and very destructive coalition. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be the greatest defeat of our nation in over 200 years if we lose our currency. And that's happening the way it's going right now with all this money that's being printed and horribly just handed to everybody for Green New Deal. Green New Deal is going to put you out of business. Just ask Germany, ask other countries that have gone a little bit that way. They're all building coal plants now because they were dying. They were going to die. It won't happen with me, not even a chance. Just like Russia would never have invaded Ukraine and China would not be even having a thought about raiding Taiwan. They were never talking about it. Russia was never talking about it. You know, people say, well, how do we know? Because for 4 years it wasn't happening, and it never would have happened with Putin, or it wouldn't have happened. President Xi would have never done it. Kim Jong-un of North Korea has tremendous nuclear capability. Everybody felt safe when I was president. I got along with him. You would have had a nuclear war if crooked Hillary was there. You would have had a nuclear war, the likes of which you've never seen. And by the way, he's getting very anxious again. He thinks Biden is a total, I won't tell you the word he used, but a very bad word. And you better be careful. And we would have left Afghanistan with dignity and strength instead of the greatest embarrassment in our history. I think it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of the United States. And you notice the way the fake news never talks about it anymore. They don't want to talk about it. If you took the 10 worst presidents, I used to say 5, remember? Right? Front row Joe remembers it was always 5, right? I've made it 10. Do you agree? I think I could probably make it 20. I think I could make it 20. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. I mean that. Look at what he's done with inflation, with the economy, with Israel, with everything, with Ukraine. We're a failing nation. Remember what Viktor Orban said, bring Trump back, everything will be good. And he's the toughest, possibly, I don't want to insult the others, but let's say he's the smartest or right there. He said, bring Trump back. Forget about this guy. Bring Trump back and you'll have peace. And he was talking about the world. He said the whole world is exploding. You look at what's going on. The whole world is exploding. We're a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. It's totally corrupt, and we can't let that happen. If you want to save America from crooked Joe Biden, then get every patriot you know and get them out to deliver a massive victory in the New Hampshire primary first. First we do that. And you wouldn't be first, as I said before. I got to drum it because sometimes a few of the people here, I know a couple of them, especially some of the media, I want to drum it. They'll never write it anyway, but you would not be first if it wasn't for me. But we want you to join our campaign, work with Steve and Corey and everybody. Join our campaign by visiting nh.donaldjtrump.com or text Trump to 88022. Okay? 88022. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers, those horrible warmongers from our government. Those stupid, stupid people. They love seeing people die. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. They really hate our country. We will rout the fake news media right back there. We're going to rout them because they've got to learn. You know, they're doing very poorly. They're all going out of business because nobody trusts them. Nobody believes it anymore. I believe it. If they could help us straighten out this country so fast, if we had an honest press, which we don't, if we had an honest press, they are truly the enemy of the people. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will finish the job once and for all. We're going to make our country greater than ever before. We have a big, big advantage over everybody because we have what's under our feet. You know what I mean? The liquid gold. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. Will be forgotten no longer. You haven't been forgotten. With your help, your love, and your vote, we will put America first, and we will very simply make America great again. Thank you, New Hampshire. God bless you all. It's been a great honor to be with you. Thank you very much, everybody.